Real quick before we start, big thanks to AutoMattic for recording my game. I really appreciate it. He did it on a last minute notice. And yeah, big shout outs to you. And I hope you guys enjoyed the battle. Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here. And this is my week 4 battle for the UBL. This is going up against Leo, aka 6foot Hacks. This is a game I've been looking forward to ever since the schedule was released. Leo and I are good pals, and so was hoping that we could face off and then maybe get a dub versus him. If not, then it's okay. There's a decent chance that we rematch if we both make it to playoffs. Of course, it'll help if we win this game to get to the path to playoffs, because we are currently 2-1, and a loss will put us down to 2-2, which makes it a little bit more of an uphill battle to get to playoffs as the season progresses here. So yeah, I am hoping to catch a dub here for that reason. Let me talk about my team real quick. Of course, if you did miss the team builder, I do recommend you check it out. I go in depth on all the different mods that I've brought. But if you don't want to watch that, let me tell you about my team. So I have a Shed Shell Heatran with Toxic and Taunt, as well as Magma Storm and Ancient Power. I have a Bulk Up Physically Defensive Breloom, which is meant for dealing with Zygarde and Suicune and potentially Sableye. I have an Eviolite Sneasel with 4 attacks. I have a Mold Breaker Druddigon with Stealth Rocks. It also has Poisonium Z with Gunk Shot to hit Clefable. I have a Nasty Plot Dazzling Gleam Togekiss. And then I have a Fake Out Last Resort Lopunny. And as you can see, Leo has brought Talonflame, Miltank, Roserade, Clefable, Zygarde, and Virizion. So there's a few mons I'm surprised not to see. I said I am and I'm not. Like, Leo did tell me he didn't plan on bringing his A team. I think this is probably his B team, just because he wants to save his A team for the final match. I think I would call this my A- team, if you will. Like, it's a lot of my best sets, but not all of them. I think there's a few that I'll bring the second time that I did not bring this first time. So, like, with that said, Zapdos is surprising not to see, because I thought that would be his best way of dealing with Lopunny. It's got pretty good bulk, and has a good typing to resist fighting type moves. It has that ability, Static, to potentially paralyze Lopunny. So with the Zapdos absent, I am expecting Clefable to be the primary response to Lopunny. Miltank makes sense because he needs a rocker, and it's just, you know, sort of fat and annoying in general. It can switch into Heatran pretty well. It can switch into Sneasel pretty well. Zygarde makes a ton of sense. Zygarde is so hard for my team to deal with. Virizion, I'm a little surprised to see, but just based on the makeup of his team, I kind of expect it to be Scarf, because it's going to be his best way of revenge killing a lot of my mons, like Lopunny and Sneasel. Roserade is kind of interesting. It is a good check to, like, Breloom and I guess Togekiss, because it can outspeed, and it can also act as a lure for Heatran. What I'm most worried about with the potential Roserade set is Spikes and Toxic Spikes. Spikes in particular could actually really wreck my team, because I don't have any hazard removal this week, and hint hint, I haven't brought any hazard removal at all this season. So, that's kind of my biggest concern when I see Roserade there, is potentially Spikes. And then Talonflame is definitely scary offensively. I have to be very, very careful with my Heatran, make sure that I don't get wrecked by Talonflame. So, in terms of lead matchup, I do think there's a few mons that he won't lead. Like Zygarde and Virizion, I don't think are very likely leads. Versus the other 4 mons, Heatran matches up very well. Versus Talonflame, Miltank, Roserade, and Clefable, I think Heatran matches up very well with all of those. So, I've decided to lead with Heatran. And, yeah, it's going to be kind of a tricky game. I don't really have many good pivots this game, besides my Heatran. Breloom can pivot in on most anything not named Talonflame or Roserade. And I guess Druddigon is kind of a pivot, Togekiss is kind of a pivot, but I'm much more offensively leaning this game, so hopefully he doesn't put me into too many scary offensive situations. So, with that said, we're going to click play. Wish good luck, have fun to Leo, and we're going to get this battle rocking and rolling. So, yeah, Heatran lead. He might expect my Heatran to have rocks, but I do not have that. Of course, he doesn't know that. He'll find out later that I am a Mold Breaker Druddigon, because, of course, Druddigon, it shows Mold Breaker when it comes in, and then he'll realize, of course, that Druddigon is going to be the Stealth Rocker in that case, and not Heatran. So yeah, I do go for a Toxic on this first turn versus Talonflame, because I don't think that he'll want to stay in here. Even if he has, like, a Natural Gift Ground, I'll be able to live it, and I'll be able to do a ton of damage back to it with a Rock-type move. In my case, I have Ancient Power, but he smartly goes for Taunt and prevents me from going for Toxic. Yeah, and he was probably expecting me to try and get up my rocks immediately, but he's able to prevent that. or you know, he's able to prevent me from going for non-attacking moves. So he does smartly go into his mill tank, does get hit by the Magma Storm, takes very little damage. It seems like this is possibly a Spadef mill tank, but it does have to stay in here. I'm going to take this as an opportunity to go into my Druddigon and set up my Stealth Rocks. And this also has the added benefit of potentially luring in the Clefable, like I explained. It would be really nice to hit that up with an Acid Downpour. And then it's a little annoying that I get Toxic here, but it's not that bad. It powers up my Facade in case I need that. And otherwise, the mill tank shouldn't be able to really threaten me that much. What I'm surprised to see is that the mill tank actually has Return. And so that's going to do a bit more damage than a normal mill tank would. I assume that he has this just to prevent substitutes from certain Pokemon. I don't know what those Pokemon might be, but I'm sure that he had a good reason for it. But yeah, that's what I would have Return over Body Slam for. But with now this mill tank in here being able to do a little bit more damage to me, I do decide to go into my Togekiss. The reason I went into Togekiss over something else is because without the Sableye, the Togekiss isn't quite as important. I do need to keep it relatively healthy though, just to prevent outrage spam. So we'll have to keep that in mind as the game goes along. So I do double into Heatran because his best switch into a Togekiss is probably Roserade, and so I do make the swap here. I am packing enough speed investment to outspeed a 0-speed Roserade, but as you can see, he clearly is not a 0-speed Roserade. He goes for Hidden Power Ground and leaves me at literally 1 HP. And so it's a little funny. So when we were playing this battle the first time, he actually got the wrong Hidden Power. I don't know what it was, if it was normal or ice or something. But we agreed that we would redo the match and give him the right Hidden Power. And so, because of that, like, he hit me with a Hidden Power, lived on 1, and it does turn out that that was a max roll from his Roserade. So I don't feel too bad that, like, we're basically redoing these plays. So but what I'm trying to say is, after he went for the Hidden Power, I did hit him with a Magma Storm in the original game, and because I missed it in this game, we agreed to have him go for Sludge Bomb repeatedly until I finally hit a stupid Magma Storm, just so we could get back to the same place that we were when we had the initial battle with that mistake on the Hidden Power. So he's able to then go for a Giga Drain, knock me out, which is really hilarious, and I'm able to Revenge Kill with my Sneasel, which is pretty nice. And so, yeah, the fact that the Roser was able to live Magma Storm was totally crazy, and it did suggest that it was Assault Vest. And, you know, the fact that it was Assault Vest also aligns with how much damage that Hidden Power Ground did. Like, even if it was Technician, like a no special attack investment, Hidden Power Ground would not do that much damage. It would probably do like 70-80%. So anyway, I'm going to switch out from my Sneasel as this Clefable is in here. I'm going to go into my Togekiss. And unfortunately, Leo's going to miss a Thunder Wave. I do have Heal Bell on my Togekiss. So like you could say that it doesn't matter, but the reason that it sort of does is that, you know, it's opportunity cost, right? Like, because he had to go for a second Thunder Wave, he didn't have the opportunity to go for a Moonblast right away. And, you know, so all that damage would definitely pile up over time. Plus, if he went for another Moonblast, he would have another opportunity to get a special attack drop, which is important in this case because I am going for a Nasty Plot versus this Clefable. So after I go for Heal Bell to get rid of my Thunder Wave, I go for Roost to get up to a decent amount of HP, and he is once again going to Thunder Wave. So if this is a physically defensive Clefable like I'm expecting, given my modest nature and my special attack investment, I should be doing over 50% with my Dazzling Gleam. And so I'm going to go for that right now, and it's just going to be able to help judge the set, and it does do a little bit over 50%. So does confirm more or less what I thought before. It's probably not a specially defensive Clefable. Doesn't make as much sense versus my team. I'm expecting him to go for the Soft Boiled here, but he does instead choose to go for a Stealth Rock, so it's just a pretty smart play on his part, because it was going to be the last opportunity he probably had to get that up. I do get off my Heal Bell, thankfully. I don't get full paralyzed, so I'm able to remove my paralysis once again. And then on this turn, I'm going to be able to go for a Dazzling Gleam and take out this Clefable. It's not exactly clear how much health it was at exactly. Like, maybe it was at like 55% or so. I think it's like 53% minimum that Togekiss would do. So maybe that was a roll, but I don't really know. So the Zygarde's going to come in here. I do live a non-banded 1,000 Arrows. And so it's going to be nice for me to come in here and see what kind of Zygarde the set is going to be. He is going to go for the 1,000 Arrows, take out my Togekiss. So that does confirm that it is banded. In retrospect, going, sacking off Togekiss might not have been the right play, just because this does make it very free for him to go for Outrage spam versus my team. We'll find out later that the Zygarde actually did not have Outrage, so, we kind of got lucky there. It could have been potentially a bit scarier. But anyway, I am expecting a switch out. I was kind of expecting a switch out into Talonflame, so I do go for the Facade. The Virizion does come out instead. I do want to go for Protect, just to figure out if this thing has Aerial Ace or not, and try and get a good idea of what sort of set it has. As he's just going to go for the Close Combat. And so this sort of aligns with my initial suspicion that this Virizion is probably Choice Scarf. And that makes sense, because he can then use that to revenge kill my Lopunny and my Sneasel. Sneasel, I guess, to less extent, because Sneasel does have Ice Shard. If the Virizion has sufficient damage, then it would probably get revenge killed by Ice Shard. He makes a really nice switch here into Talonflame as I go for the Bulk Up. Bulk Up was probably a mistake, but I figured, I kind of thought he would go for Close Combat again, and then so me getting a Bulk Up off versus that Close Combat would put me in a really nice position, because I could basically go for Facade and collect a kill. But now I don't want to leave my Breloom in versus the Talonflame, because I fear the flying move. And Leo takes a really nice advantage of that and goes for Roost, is able to get up his Talonflame to 100% HP. So I feel like these last 3 turns or so, like, Leo's really gotten the better of me. I felt the momentum really going into his favor. And then he reveals the Will-O-Wisp on this Talonflame. So the taunt I definitely understood at first, like even on a potential offensive Talonflame, but the fact that he has Will-O-Wisp, of course, confirms that he is defensive. Whether it's Spadef or it's Fizdef remains to be seen. I don't necessarily think that Spadef makes a lot of sense. Fizdef probably makes a little bit more sense. But anyway, I was expecting more of the Brave Bird to come out here, so I figured I'd just go for the cheeky Acid Downpour play on the off chance something different happened. Like maybe he went for Roost predicting Sucker Punch, or he went for Taunt, trying to prevent like a Glare or Toxic or something like that. But yeah, because we did get burned, the Acid Downpour didn't do quite as much, but it does now power up our Facade, which is not all too bad. It's doing like 50% or so to this Talonflame. It does sort of align with a defensive Talonflame EV spread. So he's basically just going to go for Roost a few times until I get to low enough range of HP where I'm close to dying to burn, and I'm just going to basically spam Facade, try and keep this thing as low as possible. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to get it into range of rocks. It looks like he's maybe taking like 45 to 50% from my Facades. On one of these turns here, I think it's the very next turn, I do go for Dragon Tail instead of Facade. Yeah, it is this upcoming turn. And I sort of miscalculated there. I actually wanted to wait until my final turn to potentially go for the to go for Dragon Tail, so that way I would then die to burn, and I have a good opportunity to get a good matchup. Because, he would have a Mon in, and it's not even a Mon that he wants to have in necessarily, and then my Druddigon will go down. I have the opportunity to, like, pick the perfect Mon for that situation, right? But I did it, like, one turn too early. I think it kind of worked out for me, though, I would say, because you see this Talonflame is, of course, going to come back in on the Stealth Rocks, which is unfortunate for Leo. And it's going to be extremely weak, and it's going to go for an Acrobatics just to knock out my Druddigon once again. And so, because I'm now thinking that this is a defensive Talonflame, we did see the Chillon Berry, by the way, and I didn't comment on that. That totally confirms that this is like a physically defensive Mon meant to take care of Lopunny. And it's also pretty good for taking care of Diggersby as well, because it's, of course, immune to the ground-type moves. Because of that, it's definitely Flame Body, and so I don't want to go into Lopunny and like Revenge Kill with an easy Fake Out or something like that, because I don't want to risk the 30% chance of getting burned. I'd rather go into Sneasel. I know I'm going to outspeed because of his EV spread, him being like physically defensive. I can go for Icicle Crash. That 10% chance to miss is, of course, less than the 30% chance of burn that I was just talking about a moment ago. We were able to kill that Talonflame. Virizion comes in, and I do just sack off my Sneasel. Reason being is because Breloom is actually in a really good position to clean up the game now. The only way that it potentially would not clean up the game is if like if I switched it in there and then he went for Aerial Ace predicting predicting my Breloom switch in. But he didn't end up doing that. He just goes and kills my Sneasel, and because him outspeeding my Sneasel more or less confirms that he is Choice Scarf, I can easily go for a bulk up here as he continues to spam Close Combat. And bulk up does put me in a pretty good position. It guarantees that I'm going to be in a much better position to live a move from this Virizion. And it also puts me in a better position to live a move from the Zygarde. I don't even really need to like sweep here with the Breloom. The Miltank is weak enough, and the Zygarde cannot outspeed my Lopunny. Like, I don't even think an extreme speed from a banded Zygarde could kill Lopunny in one shot. So Fake Out plus Last Resort should have been enough to win this game if Breloom couldn't pull it off. But I wanted to leave myself with enough HP on Breloom so that I could potentially survive an Outrage from this Zygarde after another Protect here. And I think I slightly misplayed a little bit. I should have tried to get a little bit more HP with the Virizion, like one extra turn worth of HP, because an Adamant Zygarde here I think could potentially kill an out with a roll from Outrage. But it's going to turn out that he doesn't have the Outrage, like I said, and he has the Zen Headbutt. Zen Headbutt does 84 damage at most to my Breloom, which had 89 HP. And luckily we dodged the 20% chance of flinch. We're going to be able to take out the Zygarde, get some more Poison Heal, and that leaves just this Breloom versus the Miltank. And like, it's going to take just a few more turns because I want to guarantee that you know, I don't like get crit or something and immediately lose my Breloom to that. But this Breloom is going to be able to beat this Miltank 1v1, and we are going to be able to catch a 2-0 victory over Leo. And so I wasn't expecting Breloom to be the win con in this game at all. The reason that Bulk Up was on the set at all to begin with was just to help keep pace with a Dragon Dance Zygarde. Because if it's boosting its attack while I'm boosting my defense, it hopefully cannot do a ton of damage versus me. And yes, there's still the possibility that he could go for Outrage. But, you know, that's why I had the Heatran and I had the Togekiss on the team. If he wanted to start going for powerful Outrages, I have Pokemon that can potentially take advantage of that. You know, so that's kind of the thought process there. So, like, yeah, it wasn't necessarily going to be a win con. Like, Bulk Up was there just as a defensive precaution. But it worked out because we were able to get pretty lucky dealing with the Roserade and the Talonflame. Like, the fact that we were able to live on one with the Heatran was amazing. And I don't know exactly what his EV spread was, but he told me he got a literal max roll versus my Heatran. So it seems like it was guaranteed to live. It's just totally crazy that, like, that was the max roll, was 188 damage on my Heatran. So that was fortunate that we had just the exact right EV spread to live at 100% of the time. And then versus the Talonflame, you know, it was pretty nice that we were able to get up our rocks pretty early game. We were able to pressure the Talonflame with our Druddigon, with a combination of Facade and Dragon Tail, and put it in a spot where he had no reason to save it. He just needed to stack it to my Sneasel. And then with those two mons out of the way, like, Breloom actually was then in a position to sweep the game. I didn't go into the game thinking that Breloom would sweep. Because, yeah, like, he obviously has some good counters with Zapdos, Talonflame, Roserade, things like that. So I was really expecting to win with Lopunny there. Like, once the Clefable went down to the Togekiss and I had up rocks, I just needed just a tiny bit of chip on Miltank, I think, and I was going to be in position to win. I just needed to find a way to beat the Scarfarizion. So I really thought Lopunny was going to be the winner there in the late game. But, you know, we don't really care how the wins come. We just want them to come, period. So we are going to improve to 3-1 in this league, which is really awesome. It puts us at, or if it's not at the very top, or near the tops of the Emma Stone division that we are in. I don't know if Root won or lost this week. So he's either 3-1 as well, or he is 2-2. I'm definitely going to go check out his side as soon as I'm done recording this battle. So yeah, like, it gives us a really good start. We have a lot of tough matches coming up. Like, we've just finished a pretty rough stretch here with A-Drive and Leo, but we do have a lot of big games still left on our calendar. Like, all of the opponents, of course, are talented and are good content creators, but the ones that I particularly have my eye on are versus Styx and versus Uzi Gunner. I think those are going to be my two hardest matches coming up in the remainder of the season. And so because, like, I'm anticipating some more difficult matches, I am very grateful that we were able to come out of this stretch of the season with the record that we have. I'm hoping that we can win a lot more games to finish out the season, but I think even if we somehow go like 3-3 in the next couple of weeks, that gives us a 6-4 record, gives us a good shot at playoffs. So I don't want to say we've built ourselves a cushion, and I also don't want to jinx anything, but we're on good track. You know, when I was in GBA D League, I started off 2-0, and I felt like I was on a good track, and then I lost, 7 of the next 9 games, so anything can happen, for sure. But I like this team a lot better than the team I had in GBA D League. I feel like it's more cohesive, and a lot of the mons really play to my playstyle. Like Heatran, Necrozma, Togekiss are all really awesome mons that I enjoy using. Necrozma especially, it's just so fat and like can switch in on anything. Heatran, like, it's also really fat, even though it does have that 4 times weakness that's sort of exploitable. It just is like very versatile. You can always run a berry to help mitigate its weaknesses. And it just has such a good utility move pool, and it has such a good offensive move pool that I really like relying on it. And then Lopunny, of course, is an all-star. It hasn't gotten any kills in the last 2 weeks, but it just forces a lot of prep on your opponent's part always. Like this week, Leo brought the Chillon Berry Talonflame, which was more or less specifically for Lopunny. Like without Lopunny, he wouldn't have to bring a set like that. So it's been a good season so far. I'm pretty happy. Even taking a rough loss last week versus Dan, I'm pretty happy with how the season has gone overall so far. So yeah, next week, week 5, we are going to go off against Silver Beanie, and he's got a very scary squad with Tapu Koko that I'm not looking forward to facing. But I do hope that you guys are looking forward to watching the battle. It is going to be, of course, going up next Saturday. It's going to be quite a lot of fun for you guys to watch and for me to record for you all. So make sure you tune in for that. Make sure you go down to the description below and check out all the fantastic coaches that are in the UBL. And while you're down in that direction, make sure you drop a like on the video and leave a sub so you can stay up to date on all of the latest and greatest gaming and Pokemon action coming out of my channel. So, until the next time, thank you, and I'll see you all later.